Hello, everyone, and welcome to Children of the Most High on the Supernatural Show Network. I am here doing part 3 of my testimony, and I'm just going to jump right in today and just kind of get through this because I had to do this earlier today because I am going out of town here soon. So I'm just going to get through this. I'm going to give you a brief recap here. I went over my background in the first part of the testimony about being Catholic, growing up and then getting into the New Age stuff. And then I started, then I had this car accident, was put on medications, and my respiratory system was shutting down, so I had to get off of it. It was probably about a year and a half that I was on all of these medications, and a lot of them. And so then I start going into mass hallucinations 24/7, not sleeping. I'm not even eating at this point. And just a lot of the stuff that you guys have heard already about the visions that I've had. I would like to kind of go back to the vision in the second part that I mentioned about the FEMA camp vision. I remembered yesterday that I was in bed, but I couldn't remember quite all the details, but I knew they were important. And of course, right after the broadcast, I remembered that it was triggered because I was watching with my husband an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, which is another children's program on Nickelodeon when we were growing up. So I just thought it was really important to mention that a lot of these visions that I am getting are triggered by these programs that I had watched when I was growing up for children. So, I mean, every time that happens and those particular moments when I'm watching something on TV and it triggers something, that's when literally it just comes out of the TV and envelops around me in reality. So that was just kind of an important thing because it's referenced quite a bit in many of these visions that are triggered. Okay, so we left off on a high note yesterday where I was starting to hear from God and hear the prayers of others. I had just a few days before going through all of this, I had found this ministry on YouTube, and I, again, have never watched any of these things before, but they stuck with me, and I could hear the gospel singing and prayers and just praising Jesus, and this young minister praying with the congregation for my soul. So when I was, some of the moments where I'm breaking down so hard, I am starting to hear these things over and over again, interceding in some of the worst parts of these visions. So here's where things really start to get more on a biblical level. Just kind of to mention, growing up Catholic, in the Catholic Church, they frown upon you reading the Bible yourself. You are to have a priest read to you or explain it to you because you are too simple-minded, of course, and you couldn't possibly understand any of that or have a relationship with the Holy Spirit to help you discern these things. So you have to have a priest explain these things to you. And so when I was little, I would read the book of Revelations, Genesis. I mean, I was into reading the Bible myself, and I was constantly asking my mom questions, and she didn't know because she just adhered to the doctrine of, well, the priest is supposed to explain that to us. We don't read it ourselves. And so, I mean, I already, I think, had this foundation in my being since being a little girl, and the Holy Spirit trying to point me in that direction, almost kind of giving me a heads up that I was going to be a part of the book of Revelations. So that being said, they're not all of the rest of these visions are biblical, but a lot of them are very biblical related. So as I mentioned, and the ER scenario in that vision, when I had been pinned down by the doctors and nurses, given the thing, and changed and thought I shot someone, and it was on the news and blah, blah, blah. And again, I'm still thinking this is real this entire time, just as much as I'm also thinking I'm pregnant. Like, these things are a constant thing running through my head, and believing this. And just like the police and all of that. So I can start to feel inside of me some kind of structure, almost like a computer city building inside of me. Like, I can see it and I can feel it. And at a certain point, I start feeling like these shots of like nanoparticles, electrically charged, just like shooting out of me. Like it's like coming out of me, and I can feel it. And it's coming from the thing that they forced me to take, and that this whole computer structure is just building inside of me, and I can feel it and see it. And at one point, I mean, my poor exhausted husband tried to take a nap with me, and I'm laying down, I'm holding his hand, and I'm trying to sleep. I'm trying to get some rest, and it's not possible, but I can literally feel those nano electrically charged particles like entering into his hand, like it was melding into him or entering into him from the palm of my hand. And I just wouldn't let go. I held his hand for probably about 2 hours while he tried to sleep. And this is when I start having the visions and notion put in my head that my husband, who is in the science realm, he works in science, and I start actually believing that he is Jesus, and having this delusion that my husband is Jesus. And I am in a laboratory. And they are making something, some kind of a thing to put inside people that was similar to what was going on with me. And in this laboratory, there is a separate room that is mostly glass. And you can tell it's like another extension of the laboratory, but you can see two people in front of the windows, and they are Jay-Z and Beyonce. And again, look, I didn't listen to this music. I don't care about, I never cared about these people. I was into a whole nother thing. But what I'm seeing play out is that Jay-Z is literally has Beyonce's like brain open, right? And he is tinkering and doing stuff in her brain, like in front of me. And some scientist in a lab coat comes up to me and starts talking to me about a bunch of science jargon about how this stuff works and the purpose of it, but I actually couldn't really remember it. It's like I couldn't hear what he was saying. I couldn't understand it. And so all I could focus on was Jay-Z and Beyonce and what was going on. And then my husband walks in and I know and I can hear in my head that Jay-Z thinks that he's Jesus. And then my husband walks in and I'm like, no, he's Jesus. And it just ends up in this conversation. And this is all happening while I'm holding on to my husband's hand. And that's actually when I start going into some of the visions that I mentioned yesterday about my sister-in-law's baby shower and the whole chocolatier thing, which was a thing I didn't explain, but it's kind of not necessary. It was just kind of a strange part of the story. But so that happens, and I continue to believe that my husband is Jesus, probably up until the last couple of days that I am, still stuck in this delusional state. And at one point in the visions that I have later, and I don't know the time frame, I can't tell you, it's just a quick blip of that laboratory again. And then another man comes in and is the actual real Jesus and explains to me that my husband is not Jesus. So there is some kind of semblance in that particular part, but I did find that to be extremely important to express. So after all of that happens, we then, try to watch some more Hey Dude. Again, this is a show from Nickelodeon back in the 90s that we all grew up with. Kind of teenage orientated, preteen, teenage orientated. And I had already seen some very disturbing things from that show originally in some of my visions previously. But this is where it gets very biblical. As this episode is playing out, again, the TV, it just like comes to life and I'm surrounded in this world. And at this point, I'm actually looking at my husband and I'm like dead straight that this is all real. I'm like, you can't see this. And I'm explaining to him these things that I am seeing. And he's just looking at me like, whoa, nope, don't see any of this. But it was so wild. So it literally comes to life around me. And it starts off with the whole cast of Hey Dude hanging out in one of their main sets outside. And they're all dressed up in different clothing that's not typical for the show. And one of the adult characters in the show has a Bible in his hands, a big giant one, like really old. It wasn't like anything I had ever seen in a Bible. It was a really old, massive Bible. And he starts reading off parts in Revelation, and then it just comes to life in my being. And here's what I saw, and I didn't write down all of the things in my notes because I'm just going to try and get through this. It starts off where there is like this massive flood, and me and my children are in a boat, and they're a little older, and they are expressing to me that they are in love with each other. Okay. And I'm like, whoa, what? But everything around me is very kind of like old fashioned, like ancient feeling, but it's not ancient. It's like really happening almost in the future, but it feels like it's ancient. And it's just, it continues to go into this whole aspect of my children who seem to think that they're in love with each other, and it's just getting weird. And then the next thing I know, I am seeing like this overview of, not like it's a battle, but it's like it had, like there was a battle that had already taken place or something, and this is the aftermath. And there were these rat people who were, they were like chimeras, half rat, half human. And they were the ones who dealt with the money. They were the accountants and the bankers, and they were the ones who were dealing with the money system and whatever this, existence was. And you see all this chaos and debauchery, but it's like they're in old taverns. And I mean, again, it just looks like it's ancient times, but it's sometime in a future place. And then I see these massive giant beings, but they don't look like a human giant necessarily. It's like they're half human, half not. And their legs kind of went backwards, instead of your knee going forward and walking like how we do, they were backwards. Like some animals have that feature, and that's how they walked. And so it was kind of like they were half Mr. Tumnus, and then half humanish, but scary humanish. And we're talking probably, the size of a mountain, put on its head, standing up forward. And these two giant beings are Obama or Michelle, Barack and Michelle Obama. But Barack Obama was the main guy. He was the main giant guy. And he was in control, and you could see him picking up people and just eating them, and tossing other things aside. And just, he had this huge, main, horrific control over the population. Now this vision gets very in depth, and a lot of things happen, and I don't remember all of them. I just remember that I continuously kept getting visions of the cast coming back in that set, in those clothes, like they were playing these roles, and like this was all some kind of a play, and reading excerpts from Revelations. And so that continues, and it turns into visions of George Bush Sr. unalived on a train, going and being paraded on train tracks all throughout the whole country. And then after that, you see just droves of old unalived politicians and world leaders. I mean, just droves, one after another, parading on after Bush Sr. And they're all going down into the earth in this big giant furnace that is actually like at the base of this tree. And as I am watching this, I'm kind of almost like above watching this. There is a gentleman who has his arm around me, and he's telling me it's all going to be better now. The new world is going to be like this great utopia. This is what love is. Now love can flourish, and just all this has to die so the new world can come. And I mean, he's just saying this over and over. And then he starts to say, like, like your children, brother and sister love, that's okay now. That's acceptable. That's okay. And really trying to push this agenda that this new world and utopia is accepting of all, and all of this stuff, and all of these all this old world, all these old people have to go, have to die and be sacrificed and incinerated in the earth to bring this tree up to create this utopia. And I just kind of have to mention that, again, this was in 2013. And when George Bush Sr. actually passed away and they paraded him all around the country on a train, I got chills. It was like, I lived this already, So, again, back in 2013, I saw that all play out, and that was the succession that happens afterwards. Oh, okay. Then and again, I don't know at what point this vision is happening. This is probably like the next day, maybe the day after, I don't know. But I then get visions of being in this massively grand old style castle. I am standing I'm in at what looks to be, I don't know, a tower kind of feel, or some kind of circular room where all up on the walls that are very, very tall, there's these little alcoves all carved out all around this circular wall. And me and many other children, because I'm actually seeing this as me. I am maybe 14 years old, somewhere around there, 13, 14, something like that. And I am not wearing any clothing. I am painted gold, and I have jewels encrusted all over me, and I am commanded to stay as perfectly still as possible as a statue. And there are several other, all of these little alcoves are all filled with children in this attire, being told to stay as still as a statue. And we are observing this ritual take place. But because we are all so high up, a lot of us are high up, it's not that we could see anything really clearly, but we know that there is a ritual going on. And after said ritual, we are still told to stay in place as statues until we're, dismissed. But the kid next to me, a young man, starts going, hey, and he's telling me hey, let's see what's going on. And he knows a way. We climbed out of our little spot somehow, and we end up going down some hallways, going up and then out onto this balcony. But mind you, we are hiding. We are trying not to be seen, and we then end up going onto this platform, but we're holding on for dear life. This platform is over this moat, and it's really, really high up above the water of the moat. And it's just this big outdoor platform. There's all these tiki torches kind of thing, but a little more ancient looking, all lined up. And you can see these men talking to Tom Hanks and Beyonce. And again, why she keeps popping up and things, it's interesting. But she is actually around my age, and at the time she seemed to be like 13, 14, something like that. Um, but I literally witness these big, giant, huge, spiky, like guar like demon beings standing there talking to some older men and then Tom Hanks and Beyonce. The next thing I know, I can see this like other dimensional portal or space kind of like open up, but it's like it looks like a bubble. Like, when you blow bubbles, it kind of looks like that, but it's kind of reddish, pinkish color and glowing. And you then see these scary, massive, just spiky demon beings then like somehow transferred these Tom Hanks and Beyonce's being into this like portal space, and they then literally put on their body like a skin in front of us, and we're like dangling on this ledge, like terrified of sheer death or even being seen or anyone noticing that we're there, but being terrified of what the heck it is we're seeing. And I mean, it looks like it's painful, and it's just like, I mean, so graphically just putting on the body. And then once that's done, they're in these actors and entertainers' bodies. And it cuts out basically after that, and one of the old men who was sitting outside witnessing and being a part of all this then notices that we're dangling off of this ledge over the moat, and that was what I saw at that point. So at this point, my family is like done dealing with me. They are afraid that they've lost me forever, and I don't exactly remember the incident 100%, but all this time I'm calling people and like apologizing or talking about my visions thinking they're real, and all of these people are just like, what in the heck is going on? So at some point my husband and my mom call the funny farm basically to come and take me away, and I'm terrified. They take my phone away, okay, which they probably should have done that a while ago, not gonna lie, okay, but they took my phone away so I couldn't call anybody else and freak them out. And these men come busting and literally bust down my door, and I am terrified, and I am now coming to some sense in this moment. And somehow I come back just enough to talk these men out of taking me away. And I know that's God. I know that's God. Because again, and later on, when my husband tries to take me to a rehab, and I talk him out of it too, it's the same thing. It's like I knew that if I at that point went into a facility, they were going to give me more drugs. And that was just going to continue everything exponentially. So I have a moment of clarity, and they allow me to use my phone to call my dad again. And this time I'm like just begging him, like, look, they just tried to take me away to a mental institution. Like, I need you. I need you. And I know my mom had called him up too several times. Like, she felt the same way. You are the only person who has experience in this. And Your daughter needs you. So my dad finally comes. And at some point, I know it was kind of before some of the other visions I had mentioned, but I am thinking that there's something wrong with the water. The water is weird. It has a weird consistency, almost gluish. It's not drinkable. I was afraid to take a bath. It felt weird, and I just knew something was very wrong with the water. And this continues and continues. And when my dad shows up, in my delusional mind, I'm thinking that my brother's best friend is with him. And when they arrive, they're trying to check out the water to see if, something's wrong with it. I mean, really, my dad was actually doing that outside. This is like at nighttime, but my brother's friend was not there. And I kept asking my dad, like, about my brother's friend, like, what did he say? Where is he? I can't see him right now, and blah, blah. I thought he was with you. And my dad's like, I came by myself, like, okay, but in continuance, I just consistently feel that there's something toxic and awful and weird going on with the water. My dad finally shows up, and I am again getting more of these delusions of the police. But this time, there is a main central person. She is an African American police officer, and her name is Michelle. And this being that I'm seeing constantly is like stalking me. And I'm constantly seeing her like at a neighbor's house, or, watching me, or literally inside my house. And at one point, it's like threatening, they're trying to get me out of my house. This woman is trying to get me out of my house, and they're going to come and arrest me. And at one point, I see her with a huge mass group of people who seem like protesters, and they're all singing these like old school slave songs, from back in the slave days. And they all come and mob to my house to come and arrest me. But Michelle is the one who comes into my house, and I feel that I gotta hide from her. And my dad is like laying next to me, like internally freaking out, like, what is going on with my kid? And I am trying to hide from this woman. And I go under the covers, and I am forever. I was the stillest I could possibly be, trying to hold my breath as much as I possibly can for like the longest time. And my dad is sitting there patiently just watching me do this. And occasionally I'll whisper to him, is she gone? And my dad would be like, she's not here, And then I'd come and peek out of the blankets, and there she is. And so I go right back into my paranoid state. And that lasted for quite some time throughout that evening, and started to really scare my dad. Here's where I start seeing some weird tech things. For instance, I started having visions of me being a trans man, but on all of these monitors. Like, so think of like like the Partridge Family. Is that what I'm thinking of? Anyways, all these like TV screens or monitors in squares. And I am a trans man, and I am in conversation with somebody else in each of these screens. But in reality, it's actually me talking to myself. So me as that trans man is having a conversation with myself dressed up and completely in a whole nother thing, like they're another person, but it's really just me. And I'm having all of these different conversations on this monitor with myself as different people. But the main trans man, which was me, and like observing the situation or going through it was the same. So, and looking back on that now and understanding some of the stuff I know about like MK Ultra and that kind of stuff, it kind of makes sense, you know, in the, what do you call it? Dissociative identity disorder kind of a thing. It's what I think about it now when I see that. I also have visions of actually being on the Supernatural show with Daniel. During one of the shows, as a matter of fact, I had a revelation of that exact moment being in my visions, and Daniel calls me out on it, and I explain that. And it just kind of dawned on me at that moment, wow, there's really something to this, because this was part of my visions that I went through. And so I go further into seeing all this weird tech stuff. And in this vision, it's like I have like some kind of, what do you call them, contact lenses in, or it's inside me, but originally I saw it as like contact lenses. But you could it's like now the stuff that they are telling you can do with the Neuralink, where you can, all your computer stuff is in your vision. So you get a phone call, like it'll pop up in your eyeballs, like you see it in real time, like so and so is calling, you want to answer, and you just, yes, answer, and you just start talking. And or you're seeing like a GPS map pop in front of you, and real time, that kind of a thing. I saw that. And at this time, again, there was nothing out there like that. But a couple years later, I did find that Google started or trying to create these contact lenses that did exactly that. So it would interface with your devices. And so you could see the stuff in real time, like through your eyeballs instead of on your device. So that was kind of interesting. I start now. I was hearing these voices quite throughout this whole experience, and I kind of didn't mention it, but I put it in here like afterwards, stuff I forgot. So bear with me on this part, okay? I was hearing voices because as I mentioned, I wasn't eating. I didn't eat or sleep the whole 3 weeks, pretty much, except for what they call gooseberries or golden berries and alkaline water. And I kept hearing these voices and seeing these like really scary demon-like creatures. Like the voice wasn't from the demon creatures, but I was seeing the demon creatures. Like the voice was a disembodied something else saying, don't eat these foods, don't eat these herbs. And at the time I was vegan. So I mean, my diet was already pretty limited, as it was. And I was like into the whole raw vegan thing and superfoods and all that stuff. And so all I kept hearing in my mind was, do not eat this stuff. Do not eat these herbs. These are of the devil. It's of the devil. It's devil's food. It's blah, 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 like over and over and over again. Like only drink alkaline water, only eat these berries. That was literally what I was told over and over again. So that's all I did. And, come to find out, okay, golden berries, like vegans, we had problems, or vegans have problems with getting vitamin B12 within their foods. I mean, a lot of people actually have that problem, even eating meat. And golden berries or gooseberries are known as to be one of the few plant type things that contain a form of B12 within it. And B12 is a vitamin that helps you to detox. It helps to remove things like niacin and that kind of stuff. It helps you to process things and the toxins out of your body. And so an alkaline water too helps to subside acidities and things along those lines. So there are benefits to these things. And I really feel God had that on my heart to fast, and that the only thing I should consume was something that will help me to get this stuff out of my system as fast as possible. But I literally ended up like 105 pounds by the end of this 3 weeks. I mean, I was Skeletor. I'd never been that skinny in my entire life. I mean, it was painful to sit, like all it is bones and skin. Sorry. It's really hard not to get emotional when talking about this stuff, because it's been 12 years, and sure, every now and then these things will pop up in relation to something that's going on, but I really have tried these 12 years to not think about these things and relive it. So just bear with me, guys, if I get a little teary-eyed or shaky in my voice. Okay. So there was that. And also I mentioned to, previously that I had seen all these demons all over my house, and the fallen angel Azazel and all this stuff. I'm continuing to see these things like in smudges on the mirror. It's all demonic faces. On my tile in the bathroom and the floor, the patterns look like demonic things and awful things. And so I'm constantly being tormented by the demonic realm during this time. Now, at one point, I start having visions of being a model. I grew up my whole life around the beauty industry and the entertainment industry. My mom used to work for Barbizon back in like the late 80s and early 90s. And I'd have to come along with all the time. And her friends worked for Barbizon. Her friend owned also Barbizon. And I was always told, I could never be a model because I wasn't tall enough, but I always wanted to because I was around it. And I just thought it was cool. And, what little girl doesn't want to be a model? But, when the owner of Barbizon comes up to you and tells you, oh, honey, I'm sorry, but you're just not tall enough. You'll never be a model. It's a little hard, but I digress. I'll get back to that here in a minute. So I am having visions of being a model and being around all these other young models. And something is going on with the eyes. Now, again, I mentioned I was in the New Age stuff. And in the New Age stuff, they talk a lot about starseed children, right? Or indigo children, who are these special chosen beings who really are like hybrids. They have really like an ascended alien being really in their being, but in this fleshly body, right? I am seeing me and these other young girls on the catwalk, and our eyes are glowing. Like there's something insane about our eyes, and they're glowing like bright white, but there's like a violet hint to it. And I mean, I'm again thinking this is real, and I'm asking, my husband, my dad, my mom, like, do you see my eyes? You see how crazy they are? Blah blah, like indigo child, oh, us beautiful models. And this ends up going into a vision of me riding on Baphomet. But he's like Falkor from the Neverending Story. And we're like flying through the universe. And all of these stars all are rejoicing because this is in the darkness, like the darkness of the universe and galaxy. It reminds me of the verse where it talks about the wandering stars from whom it is reserved the blackness, the darkness forever. This is like the space or universe setting I was in. And Baphomet is flying all around, and these stars are all praising that the Dark Prince is returning. Okay, sorry, just kind of needed to take a breath with that. And okay, so in this vision, I mentioned previously that my dad was super hippie guy, right? Mr. Party dude, hippie guy, really into the new age stuff. He was a big part of why I ended up getting into it. And in this vision, this is a really, really important one, guys, because this is like kind of happening right now. And in this vision, there is a big, giant mob of people, and they all have things like shovels and pickaxes and, farming equipment or whatever. Like, they're ready to work the land. Like, we're going to work, work mentality. And in the head of this crowd is my father. To me, he was like, like the guru of the new age, in my mind. And in the I don't want to get political here or whatever, but I guess, the more lefty side of stuff, right? Although he did have a lot of conservative views in some things, but he was pretty out there, So I envision him as like the leader of this group. And they come up to me, and my dad hands me a shovel, and he says, "It's time to work. We all have to work and pitch in together, and we got to get out of this debt." And it was like an explosion of communism, right? But like times a million. And it's like, you don't deserve to live, so you better work to earn the ability to live, so we can pay off this debt and get everything on equal footing again or whatever. So there's a sequence of time where we are like, we're working the land. It's hardcore poverty, nothing, everything that is handed over to everyone else. But you can actually see some of these people in this group, like in an office building, making a bunch of phone calls to world leaders, and then they pay off the debt and have like some kind of celebration that, yay, we can now join the new world order kind of thing. And it's all going to be a utopia, but it's not. It's just like nonstop slavery, work you to death kind of thing, in absolute poverty. But it was for the greater good, So there was that. I think that is about kind of in on like the major ones, because now we're getting into the part where I'm starting to come back. My husband one day, like, took the day off and tries to take me to the CDC is what they call it. It's like the rehab facility at Kaiser Permanente in Fontana. And I am starting to get some kind of semblance. And my mom had even taken me to a therapist, like right after the whole situation happened where they tried to take me away to the mental institution. She took me to a therapist and I was like, boom, just able to just be normal when talking to the therapist. So it was like all the stuff my mom was saying to him, he was like, well, she seems fine now, you know. So I just, had little moments of like being able to have clarity and come back in really big situations to where I would be safe from getting more drugs because it's almost over at this point. I am almost through this. Like I can feel it that it's coming out of my body, and I'm hearing more and more of those gospel singers, and I'm hearing more and more of the prayers, and I'm starting to kind of get some patience back a little bit, and not as anxiety filled, and my dad's there, and I'm starting to feel like, oh my God, I might get my kids back, and so he takes me to this facility and we spend probably about 2 hours where I am begging and pleading with him to not do this because they're just going to put me on more drugs. And I said, this will just keep going. And I know it. I know I'm almost out of the woods. Like, I just need to sleep. I just need to sleep. I'm almost done. And somehow, by the grace of God, my husband listened to me against his better judgment. And the very next day, my father takes me to the ER. And they give me some Ativan. I take it. And mind you, I'm in, an emergency room. There are other patients. I'm overhearing a doctor tell an elderly woman who had been on opiates for a lot longer than me, telling her that you will never be able to get off of this stuff now. It's been so long. It will kill you if you get off of this. And I'm hearing this in my mind going, oh my God, like that could have been me. But there's like this semblance of hope, but one last like moment of insanity before it's all over. My dad's driving me home on the freeway in his truck, and I am on the brink of about to fall asleep, but I'm still kind of in a twilight phase. And I literally open up the car door and try to run out the door while he's going 70 miles an hour on the freeway. My dad freaks out, shuts the door, like he kind of has a meltdown. And I was just quiet the whole rest of the drive home. And then he puts me in bed and I slept. I slept for the first time in 3 weeks. And you know what day this is? What day this is? This is September 23rd. So I wake up, still not all there. I'm still in a haze. I'm still in a fog, but I'm feeling like I'm starting to come back. I'm no longer hallucinating. I'm no longer seeing things. And I go to the grocery store with my dad, which was still kind of a foggy haze, and he tries to feed me something. So it was like the first time I ate in 3 weeks, which was hard. When you don't really eat much, you can't really eat much. Your tummy is pretty shrunk up. And I finally was like, okay, I can breathe. I'm starting to get out of the woods. The next day, I think my dad has like 2 more days before he has to to leave. And mind you, my dad he is not well. He has cancer at this point, but he hasn't been officially diagnosed. And he's been in a lot of pain and he needs to get home. But he tries to spend a day or two with me to try and help me to come back to reality because I'm still in a very delicate state. So he decides to take me to the movies, right? And I just have to say, it probably was not the best idea to do, but he had no idea that this would be triggering in any way, shape, or form. So we get up to try and pick a movie. He wants to watch this movie that's like all transhumanistic robotic stuff, right? And I'm like, oh, no way. I just like lived through that, Dad. I don't think I can handle any of that right now. And he's like, okay. So we everything just looks like it's a trigger. And until we see the movie Meet the Millers, and it's a comedy, and it seems like it's like innocent, right? We get into the movies. It starts off, this guy is a drug dealer, and he needs to do this deal in Mexico, but there's all this shenanigans, whatever. Long story short, he has to hire some people to pretend to be their family, and they're in an RV trying to get to Mexico and look, to not look suspicious because this guy is already well known with the police. So this is the premise of the movie. Maybe some of you have seen it. This movie had so much pedophile stuff in it, incestuous stuff in it, just debauchery, awful, 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 awful. So much awful. And this is supposed to be a comedy. It's just supposed to be some lighthearted, laugh it up kind of thing. And I'm literally reliving what happened to me over and over again, like the Disney stuff and Nickelodeon and all that stuff, like reliving it in this theater. And my dad's looking over at me like, are you okay? And I'm like, I am not okay. Somehow I get through the movie and we get home, and I am just really trying to process everything that's going on. And at that moment on, I could not unsee all this stuff that had been shown to me in film and in the world around me. Like when it comes to the pedophile stuff and all that stuff and the satanic symbolism and all of that. It was just not like, I had to go on this quest to really find out what in the heck just happened to me. And in that process, I gave my life to Jesus Christ. I gave my life full force, 100% wholeheartedly to Jesus Christ. And it changed my life forever. And because of all of that, I ended up, down a lot of rabbit holes, of course, and that's how I met Daniel Alexander Cannon. He was one of the few channels out there, along with Jonathan Kleck. I don't care if anybody doesn't like him. I love Jonathan Kleck. I think he's a very godly man. But it took me a very long time to just get some semblance. And now throughout the years, there have been so many events that have happened and taken place that have mirrored what I have seen. And so I'm just going to kind of leave you here on this note. I wouldn't have wished this experience on my worst enemy, but I wouldn't have given it up for the world, because it helped me to understand the reality of this world. It helped me to know that Jesus was real, that good and evil are real and exist, and that this world is run by Satan, and that Jesus loves us so much that he gave his life for us, rose again, conquered death so we could conquer death by his side. And I didn't do anything to earn this, not a single thing. I mean, for heaven's sake, even after being born again, I have stumbled. I have stumbled a great many times. But Jesus has always been back, right by my side to help pick me up and to push me to never give up. I pray that we all have the endurance to make it through to the end of our trial on this earth. Thank you very much all for being here and listening to my testimony. I mean, there are many more things that we'll get into on this channel, dreams and other visions that I've had throughout the years, and things along those lines, you know. But I made a promise to God that I would not have my own platform. I would not come out here in the name of Jesus in my own thing, not as a co-host or sidekick, but on my own, until I gave you my testimony. Even though I really didn't want to, guys, because it has been really hard reliving this, and I've had a lot of anxiety the last 3 days, and I haven't really been able to eat, and just between the stress of getting all of that out and working with all this tech stuff, and this is very out of my comfort zone. I've been a performer all my life. I can come out here and sing to you. I could come out and talk conspiracy. I could come out and show you how to make something, no problem. But this was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in the world stage platform. So I pray this helps somebody. If you feel led to share these testimonies to anyone, that is great. If not, it's all good. I put this all in God's hands. Whatever he wants to do with this, that's up to him. But I have finally reached Nineveh. I have finally shouted out to the people to repent. So now I'm going to go on a journey to really heal from this now. So thank you all very much for coming. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful, beautiful day. And come and join us for the Supernatural show tomorrow with Daniel Alexander Cannon, Roxy, and me. And all the rest of the week, we'll shout it out with scheduling. And I promise that there will be a lot more fun things and deep things and many other gambits to go down here on the Children of the Most High. And just one more thing, all glory to Jesus Christ. All right, guys, love you.